Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from a throwaway account from the Off My Chest subreddit and says, tomorrow my boyfriend is going to ask me to marry him and I'm going to say no. I feel like if I don't tell someone, even strangers, I'll explode. The ache in my heart is only getting worse and I don't know what I can do to change how I feel. If I had one wish right now, it would be to somehow magically change how I feel. A week ago, I found the ring. I think it was a week ago. He knew exactly what ring to buy. A girl can't ask for a more beautiful ring. It's been in his family for years. He also got a backup ring. I also know he asked my dad's permission and that my dad gave it to him despite both of us being young. Well, youngish. My family has always loved him so much. I think they feel equally awful after tomorrow. I wish I didn't find the ring. Maybe if I didn't have time to think about it, I would have said yes. But that's not fair to either of us. I'll miss him. I'll miss his scent, his hugs, his laugh. The way he doesn't make me feel dumb when I tell him I don't know something. He'll just explain it to me. No judgment. I'll miss the chemistry we have. How even after years of being together, we still want each other just as much. I won't miss the jealousy, the possessiveness, and the way he feels like he owns me. When we first got together, I thought I could live with his flaws. After all, I wasn't perfect too, but when I saw that ring, I knew I couldn't. I want to be able to have friends, even if they are of the opposite gender. I want to be able to talk to my coworkers without someone feeling jealous or threatened. I want sometimes to have a girls' night. I want a relationship where my partner doesn't act possessive in the name of being protective. I want someone who doesn't scream at me, asking me to get in the car and leave with him just because a male friend asked me to hang out. I get why he does it. I understand him. I love him. He's insecure and I get that. He wants to protect me, but what he doesn't understand is that he's hurting me trying to do this. I can't constantly fight and defend myself. That's not the life I see myself having. I feel like he doesn't trust me even after years of being nothing but loyal. I feel selfish. I promised him I would never leave him. I promised him I'd stay and love him forever. I promised we'd grow old together and start a family together. He's even trying to be better for me, but it just wouldn't be fair for him to have a wife who, even if only for a few moments, resents him. I hope he wants to continue our relationship even though I'll say no. I want to keep all my promises, just not now with the way that we are. I feel like I'm drowning. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to disappoint everyone I know. I hope I wake up tomorrow and magically change my mind. Edit. The reason why I'm not telling him no now. I've considered that, but from how much I know him, it'll be better if I answer when he asks me. Kinda. I know he'll want a chance to do it properly because otherwise he'll keep wondering like, what if she didn't find the ring? What if I did it right? What if she just freaked out, etc.? I know him and this 100% is the better way for him to find out. At least considering the other option. It's not a public proposal. Absolutely not selfish to consider your future, especially when someone is about to propose to you. That paragraph in the middle pretty much said it all really, that you want to have friends of the opposite gender, you want to talk to your co-workers without someone feeling jealous or threatened, and you want sometimes to have a girls' night, and that he screams at you because of all this sort of stuff, like where in the name of being protective. That's not a way that you can live. It's not the way for your future. Someone shouldn't be treating you like that in a relationship, and that isn't going to change anytime soon. So marrying into that is absolutely the wrong thing to do. But Sammy Sam says, I was with my ex for 10 years and there were so many things I excused and thought, oh, he's just slightly insecure. We talked and he promised things would change and he wouldn't be so possessive and question what I was doing. I knew he was going to ask me and I wholeheartedly thought I'd say yes. When I saw the ring, all I could say was no. We tried to make it work after, but I just started to realize that while I loved him to my core, he wasn't the future I wanted. We continued to be friends for a couple of years. Then I met my husband and that was fine. But when I got pregnant, he couldn't do it. He couldn't watch me build the life he wanted with me. He's now engaged and we're both happy in our lives. Sometimes you just realize the person you think is meant to be your forever really isn't, and that's okay. Or the question says, if I could go back in time, I would never marry my possessive, jealous ex. I was the same way. I walked on eggshells around him. When I finally got the nerve to ask for a divorce, it got insane. And another commenter says, OP, not marrying the wrong person is one of the best decisions you'll make in life. I applaud you. Stay strong. You got this. Bring a Towel says, in my experience and seeing it happen with people around me, the possessiveness and jealousy will just get worse if you do get married, or even just say yes to the proposal. Once that ring is on there, things will change, and not for the better, and your resentment towards him will grow. Those doubts you have is your gut saying something isn't right. You are doing the right thing by saying no. Don't worry about letting other people down. It's not their life. You deserve to be happy and be able to do what you want, when you want, and be able to talk to whoever you want. And one more comment from Disaster, who says, a possessive dude that screams at you for talking to a male friend. Nah, don't stay with him. Don't listen to these people. If you need to walk around eggshells with him, if you can't have as many friends as you want and spend healthy bonding time with them, if you can't even have a girls' night, you need to run for the hills and don't look back. I promised to stay with him forever. Did you also promise yourself a miserable life? It's not that he doesn't know it hurts you. It's just that he doesn't care. He wouldn't even be open to therapy. Then how else is he going to help himself? You can't fix this dude. So what if you disappoint everyone you know? Will they have to live a lifetime of emotional abuse in your place? Will they have to restrain themselves from living a normal, happy life? Is that promise worth a lifetime of regrets? It wouldn't be fair for him to have a wife who. It wouldn't be fair for you to have a husband who feels as though he owns you, who feels entitled to decide who you can hang out with or not, and who feels it's right to scream at you for suggesting otherwise. Go. It's gonna hurt like a motherfucker, but in a couple of years when you look back, you're gonna know you did the right thing. And I think that was just such a good comment, switching some of them lines back to OP to ask you, did you promise yourself a miserable life? Because that's absolutely true, isn't it? But anyway, sometime later, OP did come in with an update and said, hello, I apologize for the very confusing way in which I worded my original post and for the late update. As you can imagine, the last few days has been hard. English is not my first language, and besides, I didn't even think so many people would read it. I was honestly so shocked to see so many people try and help me understand my feelings. Thank you so very much for all the support, love, and advice. Just to clarify a few things that people found confusing. He already had the family ring with him, his great-grandmother's, but he bought one more, a whole other ring, just in case I didn't like the family one. The backup ring was more modern. I assumed right in thinking he planned to propose with a family ring and then give me the backup as a modern alternative. Also, I'm 25 female and he is 26 male. We've been together for 5 years. We'll be 6 this Christmas. A lot of people were asking why I'd want to stay in this relationship since I talked about how even though I was not ready to get married, I still want to be with my boyfriend. It's basically because I have faith in us. I want to help him and I want to try everything I can before giving up on us. I love him and his qualities and lovable quirks are so much more than his flaws. I know he had a not so good childhood which doesn't help with the insecurities. Rather than leave him and lose everything we had, I want to try. Of course, this is all only applicable if I'm happy. I'm still prioritizing myself. I just want to help him along with this too. Okay, so the update. I ended up talking to him before he proposed. At first, I was so sure that it was better to wait, but a few helpful comments made me realize I'd forever ruin the magic and beauty that comes with proposals if I let him actually do it only for me to say no. So I texted him and told him to come back home from work as soon as possible. My brother knew I was telling him about my decision just in case things got messy. Not that I think my boyfriend would ever hurt me, but I was just overall very chaotic in my emotions and felt like I'd need someone with me if we broke up. He came home, I cooked dinner and we sat together at the table. He could tell I found the ring. I knew that he knew the moment I looked at his face. I'm not sure how best to describe it in English, but there was a certain sadness in the air I couldn't quite understand. Not your typical sadness. I don't know. Anyways, I told him about the ring and he asked me if the answer was yes. I couldn't speak really, but he answered it for himself and said obviously the answer is no, otherwise we wouldn't be doing this. He asked me the reason. I explained as much as I could. He listened, I cried, then he cried. Then we just held each other. He was not angry at all, and now I feel guilty for thinking he'd scream at me or something. I told him I still loved him and I just didn't want to get married now. He said okay, and that he wanted to be a better person for me before calling me his wife. I asked him if that meant he wanted to try something like therapy, and he said yes. He was very hurt though, I could tell. It pained me to see someone I love so much go through that, but this was the only option. I didn't want to get married while he was still this way. We cried more, we went for a walk, and I felt hopeful about our relationship for the first time in a while. I think we forgot that love isn't always enough. As someone pointed out in the comment section, I want to understand him more, and I can see that he wants to try and be better with his insecurities and instincts. I know it will be slow, the whole process. I know he won't magically change, but I'm okay with that. I'm booking an appointment soon. We have been having more honest conversations, especially me, by telling him how hurt I was by some of the things he does. It felt good to communicate like that. He opened up to me too about his insecurities and whatnot. Thank you again for validating my feelings. It felt so good to just type this all out and have so much love and kindness. Thank you. Comments on this one says, I dated my husband the year before we got engaged. We were engaged for 7 years before we decided we were ready to actually be married. We got through all the tough and terrible stuff that breaks up new marriages before we actually signed legal papers. Our way of treating it was as long as we both had one foot in, then things were worth fighting for. If not, then it was easier to walk away. We've been married 10 years now. Another commenter says, I have to say that I'm so damn proud of you. You covered all loose ends, were honest and direct, and it appears to have worked out for the best so far. I think that even if your relationship with him was to end at some point, you will both be better from this experience. Very proud of you. You fucking smashed this. Another commenter says, how will he know the best time to propose to you? Will you give him big hints, as he will probably be apprehensive to ask you, fearing the I'm not ready answer? Or are you comfortable just maintaining the status quo? What you did was a very mature approach and taking marriage very seriously for the right reasons. Hope he replies saying, he actually asked me that and I told him we'd have that conversation soon, as I'm not sure myself. I think when I feel like the both of us in a more comfortable position, I just tell him like, hey, I feel like we're at a really great place. Now, as always, I never think I'm right in a situation like this, but for me, the update didn't feel great. Everything that was said in the first part of the post, him screaming at her to get in the car, etc., to her then feeling guilty for having to say no to him proposing. For me, I feel like the relationship should have been over a long time ago. But yes, people can and do change in therapy, but it's a gamble, isn't it? And I kind of feel like you shouldn't bet your entire future on his potential growth when you've been treated this way already. And it's not something that's gonna disappear overnight. This is something that could take years, maybe, and it might not happen at all. And I really do hope that I'm wrong on this and they're living their best lives, but it just feels like one of those situations where things get better for just long enough to keep you hooked, and then it just keeps going on and on again kind of thing. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story comes from Revolutionary Half 170 from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit and says, Am I the arsehole for stopping paying my ex's bills? Alt account so I don't dox my main. My ex and I split up 3 years ago. No bad feelings, we just drifted apart until we realized that we were now co-parents, not husband and wife anymore. We have 2 kids, 13 and 10. My ex used to work as an infrastructure engineer, and I was working as an owner-driver with my own truck. At around the time the kids were born, we decided she was going to be a stay-at-home mum. The trucking was going well, and I'd bought a second truck and a van, so I stayed home doing all the planning and admin, while I had the trucks and van out. When the smallest started school, the ex went back to work part-time, but her time out of the workforce had hit her really hard. And she needed to learn lots of stuff, and basically she couldn't get back at her previous level and had to pretty much start over. Over the years, the haulage firm had expanded and frankly, it was getting a bit of a pain in the ass. We were too big for where we were and were needing to move to a new yard, so I sold it all for a reasonable sum and set up a freelancing as a dev. Did computer science at uni. We both had relatives pass away, leaving us property and money, so we were mortgage free on the family home. When we split, I moved into a house that I had inherited. We basically split the assets in half, split the cost of the kids' activities in half. And when we were sat looking at the money, she concluded that she would need to go back to work full time, and she would miss time with the kids, as they were with me the 3 days she was at work and every other weekend. I felt a bit bad for that, because if she hadn't been out of work for so long, then she'd be in a better place career-wise. So I offered to cover half of her bills until the kids went off to uni. She didn't want to at first, but I said to her that she helped me out and had now suffered as a result, so it was only fair that I returned the favor. It's helping my kids out, and I didn't want her to be running down the savings that was essentially the kids' inheritance. So this situation has worked out about as well as it can. We co-parent happily, everything is all good, until she met a new guy. He's someone we knew from way back but we lost touch with. They started dating. She's really happy and she's talking about him moving in, which I'm okay with. The kids get on with him and I trust her judgment and know that she wouldn't put anything ahead of the kids. So I said to her, if Lado is moving in, you won't need the money towards the bills, will you? She said no, she wouldn't, but she was thinking of putting it into the kids' accounts. Great idea, says me. I put some of their cards for pocket money and the rest in their savings. So that was what we agreed. But when new chap found out, he went up the wall and accused me of being controlling and financial abuse. A few of our friends have also said that he got a point and that it looks a lot like jealousy. So am I the arsehole here? Opie adds a couple of comments, one saying, just to add context, in the interest of fairness, my money has no bearing on whatsoever on whatever financial arrangement they have between themselves. There's no way my ex will let him live there and not contribute. Someone says info, I don't understand this arrangement. Is she living mortgage free in a house that she owns? Does she work now? The new guy is not responsible for putting money towards her house or paying for her personal expenses. Opie says she lives mortgage free in a house that she owns but was the marital home. Because we inherited my dad's house, the settlement was that I traded my half of the family home for her half of my dad's house. She works part-time the 3 days a week the kids are at mine. I would imagine she asked him to chip in towards the bills, as she's losing her discount on the council tax by him moving in, and generally people share living costs. Now, unless I missed something here, it sounded like a really mature and thoughtful co-parenting arrangement that you had, and everyone was benefiting from it, especially the kids, which is the most important, right? You weren't paying the ex's bills out of some sort of control or anything like that. You were helping because you recognized that she sacrificed her own career for your family during those years of your marriage, which I thought was incredibly fair. I think it's pretty standard when, when she's moving on, she gets a partner, then the financial situation changes. And it sounded like you was in agreement with it, with your ex as well, that the money just goes towards the kids, which, is the opposite of controlling. But the boyfriend's reaction to this is a red flag, let's face it. This guy comes into the relationship and, instead of being happy that these two have a great co-parenting relationship, that the kids are being well taken care of, he's creating some kind of drama where there was none in the first place. And anyone outside of you and your ex talking this shit about jealousy are just totally off, because you're not being spiteful here. You're just adjusting it because it needed to be changed and the money's still going towards your kids. And just jumping on the boyfriend again, anyone who jumps into a relationship like that and starts throwing around financial abuse and controlling, just huge red flags, especially when they have such, what we can see here, a good co-parenting relationship. But Hunter Administrative says, not the arsehole. Looks like he was interested in the free ride and now the gravy train has stopped. He's all upset. Your ex had no issues with money stopping because she isn't interested in taking advantage of you, and two adults living together should be able to cover their own expenses. But new boyfriend doesn't want that. Swill Shop says, not the arsehole. You and your ex have a long history of respecting and supporting each other, and you both put the kids' well-being first. You and she discussed and agreed this change continues the mutual respect and support, as well as prioritizing the kids' well-being. Friends' opinions are to be ignored. You gave extra when you felt she needed it. She agrees that now she doesn't need it, and she never viewed it as something she was entitled to. And you both want the money to be redirected to the kids. I'm searching high and low for a whiff of jealousy. Smell nothing but mutual respect, reasonableness, and exemplary co-parenting. If the boyfriend is a decent chap, he will 1. Calm down, 2. Realize that he has no standing to insert his opinion, and that he needs to respect and trust your ex's judgment, and her decision regarding her kids, and 3. See how wrong his judgment is. If he was counting on that extra money to subsidize his lifestyle, and your ex may want to rethink how great a guy he really is. Photo says not the arsehole, his opinion is irrelevant. The only opinion that matters is the ex-wife's, and she seems fine with it. I admit, as I was reading it, I started to think maybe a bit jealous. But even if you are, if you continue to pay those utilities, then you are effectively paying them for him. He is no one to you. You're good. And one more comment that says your ex agrees with you. That's the only person whose opinion matters. Despite financial abuse, as he's calling it, requires an actual relationship to leverage the financial abuse against. However, you would still be on the hook for child support. I'm guessing since she never sought to take you to court to enforce it, that what you are providing and what you're providing now likely exceeds what she would be able to otherwise obtain legally. So is willing to maintain the status quo and not create an unnecessary mess out of it. The new guy needs to mind his place. So OP comes in with her first update and says, we have joint 50-50 custody of the kids, so I have no actual obligation to be paying anything. But that said, I don't want my kids to miss out on their many and varied activities, so I carry on paying for half of those. Likewise, I offered the extra money to help with the bills because I wanted my kids to benefit from time with both parents, and also to not have to live in a house where money is a worry. Some have mentioned when division of assets from inheritance and selling my business. These are mostly locked away in long-term investments, so they aren't available. We were perhaps unwise in doing this, but we saw it as the kids' inheritance. My ex would rather have worked more than dipped into that money for living costs. The ex had been round for a cup of tea and a chat. It seems that the laddo was indeed thinking that she was his meal ticket. Apparently, he had suggested moving in, but not told her that his landlord was ending his tenancy on a Section 21 to sell the property. When she started discussing money and his contribution, he asked why, when I was paying for the kids. So she told him if he was living there then he needed to chip in, and that if he moved in, she couldn't keep asking for money from me. So she's upset, and I think that's going to be over. In the meantime, he's ranting to anyone that'll listen that I'm the typical evil jealous ex and controlling her with money. Commenter says to OP, not the arsehole. Why do the friends comment on what you both agreed to? I would just ignore what people say. The new chap has no business here either. OP says at least one has reached out to apologize. They got a somewhat twisted version of events. They messaged my ex to badmouth me, and she put them straight. OP comes in with another update and says, thanks for all the comments and advice. Just thought I would update you all on the last week. So Laddo, definitely a Brit, turned out to be being kicked out of his place. Not through fault, the landlord was selling. He hadn't told my ex. Also, he works with my best mate who told me that he's on incredibly thin ice and was on his last chance for attendance. Me, the ex and Laddo got together at the weekend and had a long chat. The main points were, if he's going to be a partner and live there, then he has to step up and contribute both financially and also with the children. As regards to the bills, both my ex and I had an expectation that the other adults in the house would be contributing, meaning that bill money from me would be superfluous. I agreed that stopping the money because someone moves in and potentially restarting it if they move out does look like it's controlling, although it was agreed that I didn't have that intent. I said that I would continue giving my ex the money, and that if it was surplus to requirements that she would put it into the kids' accounts. I do trust her that she will do this. At that point I left and went home thinking all was good. I'm on holiday with the kids this week and I got a warning that the house alarm was going off. Rang my neighbor and he went around and said that one of the windows had been smashed and that my other car had had all its windows smashed. Logged into my cameras on the iPad and sure enough, this laddo smashing the fuck out of the car and throwing bricks at my window. Turns out that after I left him and the ex, they had a major talk, where she laid out some home truths and expectations and she didn't like the reaction she got, so she ended it. So a couple of days later, he got pissed and came round to my place and smashed it up. I obviously reported it to the police, and with me being away, they spoke to me over the phone and asked me to send all the footage if I could and a statement, and they'd speak to him that day. Turns out he got stopped on the way back from mine, was over the limit and was sleeping it off in custody before he could be charged. Edits, I've seen some of the comments about how I need to speak to the ex and tell them to be more careful. I 100% trust her judgment in who comes into the kids' lives. I was just as surprised by him as she was. Like most people, she's capable of learning from experience. Also, another edit. The Glaziers have been back out. Owe the lady next door big style for the help she's been. And apparently the total bill for the house is going to be just over £7,000. That's not counting the car, which is an old Rover I was restoring, so no idea how much that will cost. Top commenter said on this one, some people just can't help themselves from self-sabotaging. Opie says, I got some sympathy to a certain extent because he suffers really badly with PTSD from when he was in Iraq for Optelic, but I was there too. And it's like, dude, we're all suffering, but you have to do something to help yourself, and he never was. Opie replies to a deleted comment and says, I've known the guy 25 years. Went to Iraq at the same time when we were in the army. His artillery unit was our brigade artillery. Would have regular drinking sessions when we were stationed in Germany. Share lifts back to home for leave and stuff. Never would have thought he would pull a stunt like this. I'm truly shocked. Commenter says when he sobers up, press charges for breaking and entering and property damage, then send him the bill for all the repairs. Opie says you don't press charges here. I've made a complaint of criminal damage. The police will investigate that complaint, and if they have sufficient evidence to charge it, which they will, they'll charge the person and summon them to court. There's some interplay with a CPS who may decide against prosecuting, and I'm not sure on the threshold whether police can charge or it needs CPS approval. If I refuse to support a prosecution, they may discontinue it or they may prosecute anyway. Someone questions on why he and the ex divorced and says, the short version is that we ended up being roommates that were looking after kids instead of husband and wife. We went to couples counseling and all that, and we came to the conclusion that it was too late for us as a couple. But we will still salvage the co-parenting, which after a lot of hard work, we're managing. And OP comes in with one more update and says probably the final update now. Got back home with the kids after our week away. I've got the window people fitting new windows. Had a victim update from the police. They charged with criminal damage, but apparently they're treating it as domestic violence. I had to get a friend who was a lawyer to explain that to me using crayons. But the main consequence is that they kept him in custody overnight, whipped him before the magistrates the next day. They sent the case to Crown Court and released him on police bail, and he's not allowed near either of our homes or to contact either of us, and he has to stay at a bail hostel, which is another town about half an hour away. He's looking at some prison time for this. I just hope that while he's in there, he gets his head sorted out and his issues dealt with. Commenter says to OP, good. Domestic violence related criminal damage has a larger potential for prison time and longer potential sentences. OP says, I thought it was a stretch, but my friendly lawyer said that because he was in a relationship with my ex, that the children are hers, and that my house is one of their homes, then the smashing up of my house made them victims. It was just refreshing in this one, I found, to see a decent co-parenting relationship. You know, usually in these stories we see the worst of the worst because, you know, that's just the nature of these stories, right? And it sounded like OP and the ex was reasonable all the way through this, but the boyfriend was just a massive red flag from the start, right? And a bullet dodged on behalf of the ex. Going, instead of like when the breakup happened, you know, just saying, okay, even if he is cross or whatever, walking away, going home, decides to go round OP's house and start smashing shit up and potentially landing yourself with prison time at the same time. It's just, what the hell? I hope OP, ex-wife and the kids stay safe in this situation while this is all going down, because I always think, and you know, it might be just over dramatic of me, I always think that, you know, if someone's willing to do this kind of thing, willing to go around someone's house and start smashing stuff up, who knows how far they will actually go in the end, causing more aggravation for both families. But what do you guys make of this situation? Did you see the ending coming? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, at the very end of the video, there'll be a couple of playlists there that you can click on. It'll automatically scroll through all the videos for you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. and much love.